What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today, we've got a ban list update. The ban list has come down, the ban list has been updated, and frankly, it's a big one. We have banned pairs for the first time. That's kind of interesting. Sakazuki is back, Nami is gone, and things are changing. So let's start off with what I think is the biggest news here, the banning of Nami. And yes, as with the other band leaders in the past, there is a new Nami to compensate. We've only seen it in Japanese, but hey, I can read Japanese, we're good. Now, what we've got here is the banning of Nami, and the good news is they've gone and given us an explanation on the website. It goes like this. As new card sets have been released, the deck built around Nami has become far stronger than intended. Moreover, its unique strategy has diverged from the gameplay experience we want to provide. Nami, in short, basically is, when your deck is reduced to 0, you win instead of losing. You're trying to deck yourself out. Furthermore, we deem that the presence of this deck will constrict the development of blue cards with the drawing cards effect, and significantly reduce leader diversity in the game environment. As such, we have decided to designate this card as a banned card. Following the addition of Nami to the ban list, as a replacement, we plan to distribute a new leader card. We'll get to that one in a second. We've seen it. I will tell you all about it. Basically, there's two things going on here. Number one, Nami has become too good lately. And the problem is, with a card like Nami, it's not just that it becomes good, it keeps getting good. And it keeps picking up steam. And it restricts drawing cards in blue. Because whenever there's any new card in blue that draws cards, everyone goes, oh, that'll go well in Nami. And then it does go well in Nami. And then round and round we go. And we've just gotten to the point where there's too many things coming out. People are talking about OP13 making Nami better again. And it's not just necessarily how good Nami is now, although it is obviously good, and there's been a lot of chatter lately about Nami becoming a better deck. It's the fact that for as long as Nami is around, the card designers basically can't print any good draw power in blue. Because if they print any good draw power in blue, Nami just becomes way too good. So now all of a sudden, every other blue leader is restricted in terms of how much draw we can print for it because Nami's too good. Add that all up, Nami gets banned. Now, of course, that has had a knock-on effect that Kabaji from OP02 is unbanned. Kabaji's got an on-play, if you got emoji, draw 2, trash 1 from your hand, but there's all kinds of effects around that can essentially let you use that over and over, and it's only a 2 cost, and round we go. And the reason Kabaji got banned in the first place was because Nami was too good with Kabaji. Kabaji essentially made Nami too good, so rather than banning Nami previously, what they did instead was they banned Kabaji, which did make perfect sense at the time. But it was only too good in Nami. In every other deck it was fine. So when you ban Nami, Kabaji comes out and is no longer a problem. And of course it's now a useful little trick that can be used in any deck. Oh, well, a blue deck of course. That's kind of nice. This makes perfect sense. With Nami banned, there's no reason to keep Kabaji banned. Now, I did say there was going to be a new Nami. There is a new Nami. It's been gone and shown off only on the Japanese website. The English website, they've given us an explanation of the ban list and told us that Nami is coming. They haven't actually told us what the new Nami is, but again, they put it up on the Japanese site, so that's fine. Now, it's actually got the same Don X1 skill than it had before. When this leader's attack deals damage to your opponent's life, you may trash 1 card from the top of your deck. Same Don X1 skill we had before. And it's still got the same, according to the rules, when this deck is reduced to 0, you win the game instead of losing it. That's absolutely fine. However, there is an extra piece of text here. You can only include East Blue cards in your deck. You are only allowed to include East Blue cards in a Nami deck now. Which incidentally means unbanning Kabaji with this new Nami is not an issue, because Kabaji is a Buggy Pirates card, it isn't an East Blue. Now, it is absolutely fair to point out that this leaves this Nami's Day hilariously numbered, because basically we had a lot of East Blue cards in the early days of the One Piece card game. We're not going to be left with very many when we hit rotation. Like the Usopp from EBO2, still going to be around, yay. And then like Nami from OP09. But firstly, this massively restricts the card pool now and is going to just destroy the card pool for Nami specifically when we get to the rotation. So basically, they've kind of reprinted Nami in a way. They've just kind of added this restriction that it's got to be East Blue cards, which just dramatically restricts the card pool. And I gotta tell ya, I agree with this. Because the thing is, firstly, Nami was getting out of hand. Nami was getting better and better, and a lot of the chatter was that OP13 was going to make Nami super ridiculously strong again, and it's never been bad, really, since it came out. But the biggest issue here was that you basically, every time a blue card got revealed, you had to think, oh, how's that going to affect Nami? And it was getting to the point where you either had to ban a bunch of blue cards and restrict your game philosophy, or just ban Nami. And this new Nami is very, very similar. The big difference here is that it is limited to East Blue cards in your deck. And that's the thing here. It's going to be given away as a promo at various events over in Japan, just like the other replacement leaders were. So, yeah. Look forward to that. The thing is, it's not just cards that are banned that happened. There was also an unbanning Sakazuki. Now, they didn't give much information about the unbanning of Sakazuki here, but they basically just came out and said, we have determined that this card no longer poses a threat to leader diversity in the current environment, and have therefore decided to unban it. I casted One Piece Finals, One Piece Euros essentially, in January 24, over in the Netherlands. And that was when OP05 was kind of new, and our entire top four was Sakazuki. Like, Sakazuki was a gigantic problem. And here, it's not necessarily a case of these two things happened and now Sakazuki's terrible. It's more a case of just, we got a load of really good leaders right now. And essentially, they've done a bunch of testing in-house, you imagine at least. They've done a bunch of testing in-house. And, you know, right now, you know, in OP11, for instance, OP12 is just coming out. But in OP11, for instance, the best decks are like blue-purple Luffy, green-purple Luffy, and weirdly, Bello Betty in the West has become like the second best deck around right now, which I did not see coming. But I am nevertheless absolutely delighted about. It's not escaped the irony here that this has actually an OP5 deck. And then with that running around, they're like, OP5 Sakazuki is back. And that's essentially the deal here. They've just had a look and gone, Sakazuki's fine now. Sakazuki is not terrible. I think it's going to be a good deck still. But they've had a look and gone, before this was an oppressively good deck. The kind of deck which causes issues because, I mean, genuinely, like I say, I had a huge tournament over in the Netherlands. I think something like 2,300 people we had at that event. And it was play Sakazuki or don't win the event. It was pretty horrendous. It had to be banned. We're just not in that same format anymore. We've had a lot of new sets since. The meta has evolved significantly. Bello Betty was terrible back when Sakazuki got banned. Bello Betty's good now. There's been a whole bunch of new cards and banned. I've gone, you know what? This is not the issue that it used to be. It can come back. And it's still got once during your turn, you can trash a card from your hand to draw one. And it's still got when attacking, give one of your opponent's characters -1 cost during this turn. And we have that amazing combination of blue and black, which for Navy is a great color combination. And I do expect to see this card seeing some play, but the difference is it's not where we were before. Now, the last thing they've given us here is banned pairs of cards. And it's all to do with OP11 Luffy, which, remember, I just told you is the best deck in the format right now. In the OP11 meta in the West, this is the best deck in the format. And basically, we have banned pairs, which is you cannot play Luffy with OP11 Charlotte Katakuri, and you cannot play Luffy with OP08 Charlotte Lin. And this should go without saying, but let me say it explicitly anyway. Obviously, any alternate arts or parallel arts, phrase it how you will, of those cards, obviously also banned. So basically, you can still play OP11 Luffy. OP11 Luffy is fine, but the difference is that Charlotte Katakuri and that Charlotte Lin have gone and been banned with Luffy. All of these cards are fine. They just cannot be played together. Now, I like going, when I see a card banned like this, I like going over to Limitless. Limitless is the best place to look up information like this. And one thing you'll see is that Charlotte Lin is 3 copies in every relevant blue-purple Luffy deck that they've been tracking. And the Charlotte Katakuri is 3 copies in 93.18%. What that means is some decks will kind of cut down to 2 copies here or there. But generally speaking, bearing in mind these are 8 and 9 cost cards, and a lot of the time the higher cost cards you do lower the count a little bit because you've got more time to draw them, and you're not going to be playing as many of them because of the cost, as in they're physically not going to be played from your hand as much because they can't be played till late game. But the point is, these cards are staples. These are very big cards that see a lot of play in the deck and are crucial to making the deck work. And now Bandai have come around and said, look, OP11 Luffy, still a good deck, still play it. Get these 2 cards out of the deck. Here's what they actually said on the website. The deck built around OP11 Monkey D. Luffy was intentionally designed to have a weakness to exploit in the early to mid game to balance its ability to ramp up Don cards quickly. However, the inclusion of these cards allows the deck to compensate for that weakness, giving it a strong defensive stability that maintained a high winning and using rate. This pairing limits the number of decks that can effectively compete against it, which in turn harms strategic diversity. As such, we have decided to designate these cards as banned pairs. Remember, banned pairs means you can play OP11 Luffy, you can play Charlotte Katakuri and Charlotte Lin, but you cannot play either of those cards with OP11 Luffy. They can be played on their own, and Luffy can be played on its own, but you cannot play them in the same deck. Essentially, Bandai came along and said, look, we've made this really strong Luffy, but it's all right because it's still very beatable. But then giving it a Big Mum package with Charlotte Katakuri, a blocker that lets you set Big Mum as active, and then add a Don Coffee Don deck rested. And then the Charlotte Lin that on play lets you trash a card from your hand and Don -1 to add a card on the top of your deck to your life. And then add one of your opponent's characters at the cost of 6 or less at the top of their life, or bottom. Essentially, it meant, well, yeah, by the time you get to your 8 Don turn, cards like Katakuri and then Lin and your 9 Don turn, these are going to allow you to get defensive and kind of reset and be fine. And that was not how it was intended to be played. So, the headlines here, we've got Nami banned, but there is a replacement, which is limited to East Blue, which is frankly much worse. But that has led to Kabaji being unbanned, and then they've also unbanned Sakazuki, basically saying, look, it's not as good as it was, it's fine. We've then got OP11 Luffy, which is not banned, but it has had a couple of Big Mum Pirates, Katakuri and Lin, banned in combination with it, i.e. so they cannot be played together, and that is intended to essentially make it so that OP11 Luffy remains a good deck, but not an overwhelming deck. So there we go. That's what's happened. That's the ban list. And now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about these bans. Tell me how you feel about them. Tell me if you think this new Nami could actually work. Tell me if you think Sakazuki is going to come back and rule the metagame. Tell me if you think OP11 Luffy is going to be fine. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk about One Piece and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wasi Plays.